Hi, the promise of 5G is endless. Mobile broadband speeds that will enable near instantaneous access to data. And today's guest, Microamp Solutions, is actually a tech IQ powerhouse, you could say, and among few pioneers working on the foundation blocks of the future distributed 5G networks. In this episode, we discuss with the founder the new 5G developments, and we also discuss when it's too early for marriage with the VC and much better to keep pulling those bootstraps by yourself and how to survive the bootstrapping period. These and other things we discuss in this episode. I hope you will enjoy it. Hello, my name is Alexander Morari, and I'm the founder of ITKeyMedia. You've tuned into our podcast about Central and Eastern European startups that are in pre-series A stage. And our guest today is Dawid Kuchta, the co-founder of Microamp Solutions. That's a deep tech Polish startup which designs power amplifiers, mmWave transceivers, and other telecom gear, basically, without which the future 5G network will not be able to operate, right?
Yes. Hi, Alex. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Hello, David. Thanks for joining our pre-A club as a result of this podcast. Look, let's start with a very simple but critical question for understanding why we're meeting and what you're doing and why you're spending so much time, effort, and somebody's money as well into developing your product. Why is 5G technology such a promise for everyone, and why has it been taking so long to implement?
Yeah. So the concept of 5G revolutions means that we were trying to deploy small 5G networks and cellular systems to connect every set of devices and transmit wirelessly data between them without any reasonable limitations in terms of data rate, latency, capacity. And now we use this 5G network to enhance digital transformation or enhance fledgling technologies in order to automate business processes, what results finally in decreasing the cost of certain processes industry. That's why it's very important to implement, and that's why a lot of entities and a lot of countries focus about that. And it's a very challenging thing because we have now two things. First is business models that we need to approach, and we need to fit this business model to the market. And the second thing is this technical part. I mean, the new technologies that we need to introduce to the market, that we need to develop, that we need to test. That's why it takes a lot of time to change current systems, which are handling now by big players, with a new system. But to sum up all of this about the money, implementing, it's very interesting. That's why we are doing this, because we can increase the efficiency. But to implement this, we need to have and we need to invest a lot of money. That's why it takes a lot of time for us to do this.
David, you mentioned first business model and then technology. Do you think to advance the technology, you need to educate potential clients on the new, I should say, fledgling business models? Is it not the other way around? You know that the technology is a breakthrough technology, so you develop the hardware, all the infrastructure around it, and then business ideas or ideologies will catch up, and they will I understand your part is not to educate your potential clients on the business models, but rather introduce a whole infrastructure that you will then roll out into the market, and then all the potential stakeholders will catch up with their business models. Why did you mention business model first? Was this a just by chance, or that is the actual state of things in this stage?
Yeah, because that's partially what 5G revolution brings to us. Because that was the first time, like 8 years ago, when people wondered around physicists, semiconductor and telecommunication industry, whether it is possible to build wireless networks more efficiently and more effectively. because even at that time, they already knew that cellular networks will be the key wireless systems of future telecommunications. And then actually interesting question appears, because you always has a trade-off between functionality, reliability, complexity, and the cost. And the question is, does every single cellular networks has to be so complex and provided only by big fish on the telecom market? And at this particular case, the compromise allows you to build 5G networks at the cost level that has been just unapproachable before. And that means that current business model has to be exchanged. That's why in the 5G revolution, business models are very important, because the idea of 5G revolution starts from business model, how to implement and how we can build high performance 5G networks in much cheaper and much effective way. So that's what Microamp doing, because we dropped the cost by order of magnitude, because previously the telecom market was closed. So the big fish were provided its own solution to the market. But currently, when we have open standard, and it allows network operators to mix the solutions, to mix the hardware and match hardware for different suppliers. So it changed completely business model, how we approach to the market. Because currently big players offers holistic solutions, the whole networks. But with 5G revolutions, the clients can create its own networks based on different vendors. That give you different, that give you the fragmentation of the market and the fragmentation of the task, which can be solved, and each task can be divided into smaller one, and it gives the opportunity like to the companies like Microamp Solutions to approach this previously closed market. That's why on the telecom and in terms of 5G revolution, these business models are very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Because this 5G revolution, where you are helping as well, I understand that will help companies to localize high performance 5G networks, right?
Yes,
and use for their own needs. Mm-hmm. And in a way, to create a distributed, decentralized, so to say, access to, as you say, democratized 5G environment in the future. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So using our solution, everybody can create its own, let's say, private or local networks. So the clients currently do not need to ask a big player to offer him infrastructure, which is, to be honest, optimized only for national scale infrastructure. It can ask the companies like Microamp Solutions and build the small networks with lower price, and these networks can be tailored to their specific needs. So it's not only the national scale infrastructure, but we have a lot of use cases where the 5G private networks can be suited and can be fit and can be used as a main wireless system for communication.
For situations and contexts that require high level of performance of the networks, right? And like even 5G for different use cases. When we will cover those as well. And by the way, out of interest, you said your hardware, the IoT devices, will allow to access 5G networks at a magnitude. There's a magnitude difference, right, in pricing range, as a matter of fact. Can you be more specific? Like, what's the price of like currently used hardware from these monopolies or quasi-monopolists or oligopolists, let's say, and what is the potential price of your device when it's already produced at scale? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole systems can be like the whole system can be like 5-6 times cheaper than it is offered by the big players.
Yeah.
Because we use slightly different technology, even modern technology, but current market is very closed. If you open the market, the prices dramatically goes down. And even it's in terms of our suppliers. When they open runs comes play a big role on the telecom market, the companies which are our suppliers and they provide us some kind of elements based on which we build our systems, they decrease the prices because they try to compete on the market. Because previously, these suppliers can only change the parts to big players. But when you have the open run concept, they can, of course, change the elements to the big players, but also they have changed elements to the smaller companies like Microamp Solutions and other companies. That's why the game on the market changing, and that's why the level of the price is different. Of course, the margin of the big fish is, if you have your market close, the margin is pretty high because you have a PR, you have a lot of stuff which do not work on R&D sector. But if you look at Microamp Solutions, you have R&D sector and a little bit marketing, so we can be very flexible, feasible. We can exactly tailor to this need, and that's why we can go down with the margin. Of course, we can also go down and approach to the market niche, which is in not interesting area of the big players. So that's why we can approach to them with our solutions with the lower prices.
Yeah. So of all the projects that you are working on, I mean, on the hardware part, which one do you think is the most promising, and what would you like us to focus today?
So I would like to focus on our project which aims to develop mmWave radio heads. These are devices which transmit and receive mmWave 5G network signal. And this is very important because based on these solutions, we can implement a hotspot 5G network infrastructure working on mmWave frequency range, which is characterized by high data rates, high capacity, low latency, low price, open run standard, and plug and play solutions. So this solution is very important in terms of problems we can solve by this and in terms of great value we can bring to the clients.
And again, I think from what I read on the internet, so to say, millimeter wave transceivers and millimeter wave technology is not only the domain of like young, small companies and startups, but also big fish are also trying to grasp this with their huge budgets and so on. Where do you think is the potential or current competitive edge that you have when compared to other big global corporates?
Yeah, so the competition on the telecom market is pretty strong, but the good thing is that we are at the beginning of 5G revolution. Let's say with the inception of 5G revolution, there is, as I said previously, some kind of fragmentation of tasks, which can be divided to smaller ones. And if I look globally, I don't want to focus on a big fish now, but because the truth is there that still there is a large amount of 5G startup, especially those most advanced ones. They are present in United States and China. And from your perspective, you can say that it's very dangerous for us because we have a Silicon Valley, they have access to very advanced technology, to different money. The investment market is very different than here, especially in the Eastern Poland. But mm, there is a revolution, and it gives us a lot of opportunities. And it is one of the very first time that we can say that the, let's say, nation of the size of Poland or other Eastern country is really able to say, look, we actually leading in a part of, let's say, in a part of the 5G race. This is really exciting because this race is can be divided, and each company or each region, even in Europe or in Africa, in America, can find its own area to develop.
Okay.
So in these things, big fish are focused on different markets, and the companies like Microamp are currently focused on different markets. That's what, because we cannot compete with big fish. We try to find some kind of niche to develop and to grow to biggest things. And we have this opportunity now because of 5G revolutions. And from the other hand, the technology allows us to do this.
Right. Yeah, right people in the right time. Dawid, before we move on to use cases, which is like very interesting, of course, and I would suggest first maybe to jump into a product description, and if you could navigate me around the key points of your transceiver, millimeter wave transceiver. Okay, let's switch to this slide from your presentation. Thank you. Yes, Dawid. So I just picked one of the slides from your presentation, and I understand this is the transceiver itself, right? More or less. This is the looks.
Yeah, this is the simple presentation of what we are developing and what we want to implement. So briefly, we are developing millimeter wave radio heads, the device that transmit and receive 5G millimeter wave radio signal, and the communication this device can provide is the highest standard that can be achieved using developed technology based on the newest achievements in both signal processing and also in semiconductor industry, because it's very important to implement here. So we have here 400 megahertz bandwidth, and the bandwidth is much higher than previously used in LTE systems, because previously we have a 20 megahertz or 40 megahertz channel, but here we have 400 megahertz channels. It gives you the chance to achieve high data rates using this. Also, we implemented here MIMO and beamforming with, of course, enhance the transmissions, and by doing this, we are able to achieve better signal parameters.
Dawid, sorry, let's make one step backwards. You said it gives you a chance to achieve high bandwidth and high kind of data channels with this 400 megahertz. What do you say? We have a chance to do this? And what stage is it? Have you like proof of the concept? Is it a working solution right now?
Yes, we work on this. Yeah, because it's the thing about the whole telecommunication. That's why we use millimeter wave, because previously and national scale infrastructure are based on sub-6 gigahertz band systems. It means that the LTE or even standalone 5G systems are working below 6 gigahertz. It means that the frequency bands they are using are limited by data rates, and they are not able to achieve that kind of data rates that we are able to achieve using millimeter waves and handling with millimeter waves. Because millimeter waves, in terms of RF devices, I mean the power amplifiers at the output and all this semiconductor stuff, allowed us to handle with higher bandwidth. If we have higher bandwidth, we can achieve high data rates. And we test it on board. We have laboratory prototype that we achieve much higher bandwidth than they are applied in sub-6 gigahertz system. And what's more, this devices is prepared to Open RAN standard. It means that can be applied in a current network by changing only the radio heads, or can be applied at every Open RAN networks, what gives us a gate and open the gate to the market. And what's very interesting from the client point of view is that this device can be implemented based on plug and play solutions. So you don't need to have a very qualified staff to implement these devices, which increase the price, because plug and play solutions, because this is created for industrial plants and also the entertainment sector. Because if we want to approach to the market and to the markets which needs wireless cellular systems, but the markets are not strictly telco market. So we want to offer the solution and the holistic solutions to the clients so that they can implement it on their own with their staff. It's also very easy for us to sell it because we can sell the product, we do not need to offer some technician to implement it. So we can sell it to the Singapore, and we don't need to go to Singapore to install the product. That's why this plug and play solutions is important.
This plug and play is important also for you as a company as well, to scale up sooner, quicker, more effectively, time-wise and financially. Dawid, yes, great, interesting. And now, having this information in mind, let's switch to the client side. Who are your potential clients? Do you have current clients, paying customers, of course, always important, and maybe cover a couple of use case scenarios.
So if we talking about clients and problems we are solving to the clients, so I think that we can focus on the problems. And the most exciting things that brings people together around the idea of Microamp Solutions is the questions, which problem cannot be solved by our solutions or cannot make better.
Okay.
Yes, so implementing high performance 5G networks can solve a lot of problems in different industry and everyday life. So we can approach to different industry. But now we are focusing on millimeter wave communications in industry plants and entertainment sectors like stadiums, concerts, and like gathering. So we have talks with big companies from oil and gas sector and energy sector, because they need reliable communication with data rate for 4K cameras if they want to monitor something, and they need cellular system to support this with redundancy and other advantages. So we approach to industrial plants. You can imagine in Canada, in the north of Canada, some industrial plants when there is no even a national scale cellular infrastructure. And inside these industrial plants, there is some autonomous vehicles, a lot of IoT devices, a lot of cameras, so we can approach to them. And the second thing is entertainment sector. You can imagine the football match when each player has 4K camera on the body, so we can put our plug and play radio heads around the stadium, and we can transmit the video from the 4K camera. It gives you different experience. And this is plug and play solution, so you can take it down and go to the concert, and also put the same transceivers in the concert and offer different use cases. Also, the VR is the natural client, let's say, of our devices. Imagine the museum like Louvre, that you are coming to the museum, you put VR glasses on your head, and you are going through this museum and you have completely different experience, which gives you the VR technology. But our technology supports these VR glasses to work wirelessly without any delay, without any transmission breakouts. So we give you this very reliable, low latency communications. That's why the VR glasses can enhance its possibilities. And
what about medical situations as well, like medical training or surgeons, or maybe pilots, and all those detail intensive situations, generally speaking?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because you have augmented reality that you can provide and conduct surgery remotely. And for this reason, millimeter wave communication is the way that we can be close to implement this AR, because currently AR is the concept. And one of the problem of AR, for example, in medicine, in healthcare, if you want to conduct the surgery that you are in US and the robot is in Poland, and you don't want to come to Poland to do the surgery, but you control the robot. So the problem of implementing this technology is, one of the problems is the reliable high performance communications. And if we can apply our systems, our solar technology to this area of industry, let's say, and to this vertical market, we can solve one of this problem, and this technology can be implemented quicker.
Yeah, okay. You were right. So business models are multitudes and a little bit more, and we could spend the whole evening, the whole day, creating use cases. This is true. Let's move on to round two of the podcast, competitors. Who would you say are most, let's say, challenging and interesting sparring partners, and how do you plan to beat them?
Yeah, so I think that there are a lot of American companies which are working on 5G solutions, but there are some which who has solutions very similar to us, and but the market is so wide that even they can approach to the solutions for example, high capacity for IoT devices, and they can offer short range of communication, but high capacity. Because always in developing the 5G systems and new technology, you always have this compromise on your hand, and you always need to choose what exactly you're approaching. So there are some companies with a similar solution, but their solution can be applied in different applications than ours. And we tried, when we started, find some kind of differentiator of our solutions. And because me and Martin has big experience in RF design, so we find and we have some kind of IP and know-how how to build high power devices in terms of radio frequency. That's why our devices can differ from our competitions, because in millimeter wave frequency band, we have relatively high power. That's why we can extend the range in comparison to other millimeter wave solutions. That's why our solution is very feasible, let's say, for autonomous transportation, when there is a smaller capacity than for IoT devices, but you need relatively long range in this. So this is the thing we try to differ. But the competition is pretty strong. I don't want to put the name of exactly our competitors, of course. But as I said you before, this is the fragmentation of task in terms of this revolution. So each company can develop its own solutions, and we will see in 6 years who will win this race, this 5G race. Whether it will be one of these big fish let's say, or maybe it will be the company which now is a startup, and I believe it will be the Microamp Solutions, that we will be the leader in this technology.
I wish you that, and of course, when there's a big company, it does not mean that they have all the advantage basically of a smaller company that can risk more, can act and decide quicker, can allow themselves. I mean, you can allow yourself, right, to to make like adventurous, pivot or bifurcation in your road easier, quicker, without these bureaucratic hurdles and so on. Yeah, of course. So thanks. That was a pretty diplomatic answer, basically. This I liked a lot. Let's move on to round 3 and see how specific you could be here. Look, what would you do as a CEO and co-founder, right? What would you do? What would you do today differently, knowing what you know now in the whole history of your company? What, like, 1, 2 key decisions that you made in the past that you would do, you would make them differently, in a different way, different approach?
We would, because first we focused mainly on developing our solutions. So maybe if I started the company now, I would, it's tricky, difficult questions, and it's question also about maybe small failures we made, but we will approach to the market more, to the client first, because it was the time that we focus on product development. But currently, and the market help us to go to the clients, because there is a lot of clients which is interested in our technology. But maybe I would approach to the market in enhanced power that we did before. That was the thing. But generally, if I will be starting that company second time, I will do a lot of things the same, because I think we have a lot of successes. Of course, they are failures because it's acting business and we fail all the time in acting business. But generally, this company has a lot of successes, so the change will be minimal.
Yeah, of course. But that's interesting. What, if I understand correctly, you're saying today you would be more braver in reaching out to clients with
Yes.
MVP or even like pre-MVP. And when do you think would be a better stage to go out into the market and try to get this market product fit? I understand. When, like, when exactly? How much sooner you would suggest your today's self to go into the market? With the idea, or with some working prototype, or like what, scalable solution?
With some kind of pilot implementation and preparing the pilot implementation, because it's take a lot of time, even 1 year, and it's from technology point of view, especially in 5G technology, 1 year, it seems that there is a lot of time. But if you have to implement with some big company, or let's say pilot partner, the implementation, especially the first pilot implementation, it takes a lot of time. So maybe if I approach them earlier, this pilot implementation will be, in earlier time in terms of company development.
Okay, but you wouldn't change the approach. You would try to contact big companies rather than smaller companies with easier decision-making process. Still, you would go for big ones, okay?
Yeah. Because even big companies now are very interested in digital transformation. And in my opinion, we can, use this time to take advantage of this situation which is on the market. Because if digital transformation will be, fitful, it completely change the market niche and market need. Because now big companies really need to implement the solutions which help them with digital transformation and help them to optimize the process. Because if small company optimize one process or two process, they can save, let's say, small amount of money. But if you look at the big company, and this company knows that if they implement the solutions which helps them to, I don't know, automate some processes, and they have a lot of processes, they can save a lot of money, and they can save their position on the market in terms of competitions. That's why now big companies are interested to talk to startup with ITC technology and look for some kind of use cases. They look some technology which can be implemented very fast. Even this is the small company, because they know that if they implement it in one process, then they can scale it and copy to other process. And even they improve the efficiency of the process of 1%. So in terms of the big company, they can move it to another path of business, let's say.
Dawid, yes, thanks. Let's move on. And round four, we'll focus on company and the team. So the company was founded almost 2 years ago. You've done some great progress as well. Dawid Kuchta on your screens, the CEO and co-founder. The CTO is Marcin Guralczyk. So tell me more about the founding team. Where did you meet? And who else is in the team? How do you divide the labor?
Yeah, so we meet in early days of our studies at Warsaw University of Technology more than 11 years ago. We studied the same faculty, the same specialization. And after studies, me and Marcin worked together as RF design engineers for both commercial and military entities. So we defended both PhD dissertations, and both these PhDs were focused on 5G and military power amplifiers. So during our research and professional career, we realized that 5G revolution is inevitable, and that we should try to gain knowledge and experience how to take part in these revolutions. Because, we always, during the work, we always like being free to creating things around. So we decided that 2 years ago, we have enough knowledge, enough experience, and that this is our time to make a difference in these revolutions and to take part in these revolutions. And we set up this company, and the aim was to shake up the telecom market. It's also Marta with us. She's responsible for some marketing and operational things. So me, Marcin, and Marta, we are consisting a core team, and we are responsible for certain sectors of our business. And currently we have, the team consists of 11 people. We have 6 very qualified engineers working on really deep R&D activities, excluding me and Marcin, and we have 1 technician. And all the staff of our company has engineering background. Even they are handling with marketing. So they have engineering background so that they could understand the technology, and they could communicate with the people in proper way, because the thing we are doing for most of the people are very complex and different to understand. That's why we put effort on the education of our people. And currently we are expanding our team with 2 additional engineers, and we want them to be hired in June. So the company is growing very fast, and the success of this company, one of the success is that we have a very strong and very qualified team, which know what to do and know the aims of the company and want to do some very important things on the telecom market.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So how many people do you have full time now? 11.
11 people, yes.
So that's a, let's say, almost like football team.
Yeah.
You were entering world championship in 5G, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully.
Yes. Okay. Great. David, let's move on to round 5. Last but not least, we call this formula F3, funding for the future. But before future, let me just cover the funding history by now. So I understand, all in all, you've had around 3 million euros, right? Mostly grants by now.
Yeah,
And
we already
yeah.
raised 2.5 million US dollars. So generally we got grants from national entities like Polish Agency for Enterprise Development or National Center for Research and Development, because the idea was to bootstrap as far as we can. And because it's R&D project and we do not live in Silicon Valley, Vatican. We live in Central and Eastern Europe, where this venture capital market is completely different than in Western Europe and in US. That's why we try to keep our equity as far as we can. And the national grants was one of our long-term strategy. Because if you look at our company, and if we want to go global, and if we want to introduce our products and want them to be present on the global market, we need the round A, round B, round C, different rounds. That's why keeping the equity at this, let's say, company time stage, is very important for us. And this gives us opportunity to keep up to now, up to the seed round, 100% of equity.
Oh, say it again. So now you still own 100% of the equity, right?
Yes.
And all the financing by now in the company was grants. And
Yeah.
Polish or some international programs as well?
Polish, currently
okay.
Polish.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, interesting. And that was the strategy from the very beginning of the company. You were, right?
Yes.
I understand you were aware this is very like tech, like what, R&D intensive project, right? And so
yes.
Okay. Is it easy to get grants in Poland for deep tech projects?
If you have a strong team and you have some kind of market validations in terms of even interesting of your potential clients, it's not so easy, but from the other hand, not so difficult as we expected. So there are a lot of programs which can be used by the company like Microamp Solutions to support and to get finance. It's not easy, but it's reachable in a reasonable way.
As far as cooperation with these national, like, let's say, grants organization in Poland, okay, NCBR, what piece of advice would you give to other companies, let's say in hardware space? What pieces of advice would you share with them while dealing and preparing, let's say, for application to grants or any other stage?
So for application of grants, so maybe that they cannot give up with this application, because I heard from a lot of my colleagues that they were preparing the application to the grant, but finally they give up because of a lot of problems. I mean, administration problems, HR problems with the people who put in this, also with some technical problems that they were worried that the idea is not in compliance with the program, with the financing program. So my advice is to not to give up. If they have an idea and if they want to get financing for their company, so they cannot give up, only focus on this and try to do it as good as they can. And there is a big chance and big opportunity for them that they finally get this money and they can have opportunity to develop the company.
Yeah, and your example just proves this is possible. And then a follow-up question is very simple. Then, would you advise to do all the application stuff and so on only with in-house brain power, or rely on some outsourced service providers, external service providers?
It depends, of course, on the time, how many time founders can spend on preparing these applications. But the most important thing is that nobody understand your idea, nobody understand your application as good as founders. So if they outsource the preparing of the application to another company, the quality of this application, from as far as I know, goes down a little bit, because they are people who preparing this application, but they are using the specific phases. They can treat it more holistic way. But if the founders is preparing the application, it can put there and focus on the very, very important things which can matter in this application. And from the other side, you have the expert, technical expert, business experts, and they see who preparing the application, what kind of words are used, whether this application is very focused on the aims, on the products, or whether it is, like the application for application, because there is a lot of some.
So it's not a formality. So you mean on the other side, on the selection committee, right, in this national grants organization, let's say in Poland, there are real professionals that are able to smell funny stuff, right, in these applications.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting. Dawid, interesting. That's really some valuable piece of advice. Let's get back to get back to Microamp Solutions and your funding plans and strategy. So I understand you are now funded enough to keep with the R&D and team growth. And what about your next stop in the funding history? Would this be already Series A or like another bridge kind of round?
Yes. So if we talk about the future of Microamp, we need to look at the economy, what is going with economy and what is going with the 5G market. And we try to fit our long-term strategy to the market and economy. And this is the result that even we have, let's say, enough money for R&D activities up to now. So we need money from marketing and selling activities and preparing the pilot implementation, because our enemy is the time, and we want to take part in this race. We want to win some part of this race. That's why R&D is one thing, but marketing and selling the products and administration matters and certifications and pilot implementations are the things that we need to spend money on. So now we are looking the money for pre-seed round, and then in 2 years we are planning to run A. And even now we have some talks with VC funds who are interested not in pre-seed rounds, but in round A. And this is always the second advantage, is that the VC funds from pre-seed rounds are very happy that now we are talking even with the round A funds, because it's opportunity for pre-seed VC to exit in our round. And we need to prepare and fit it to the long-term strategy of the company. And also, I'm really looking forward to the moment when the private networks will be so, let's say, present in our everyday life. I know that it's going to take a few years, because I expect probably, I don't know, thousands of radio pads that will be present on the global market, and it will be provided by Microamp Solutions. So this is the long-term strategic goal. Of course, this is based on the team and the financing and other matters, but the goal is to be the leader of the on the market in a specific area, and we will do this by this pre-seed round, then round A and round B for globalizations. But we want to have economy revenue and commercial revenue from our products before round A. It's very important, and this is the milestone, the first milestone we will be approaching in 2 years.
And very often this is the prerequisite for any Series A, right?
Yes.
And now, so you have the midterm and short-term kind of milestones, so pre-seed and then Series A. Can you share the amounts that you're trying to raise or looking to raise for the pre-seed round? Is it now public?
Yes.
I mean, can you public?
Yes, yes, you can share. Yes, from pre-seed round, we are looking for more than $500,000 US, like 2 million Polish zlotych for some administration, operational, pilot implementation, marketing, let's say some kind of sales activities, because we founding a pilot partners is also a part of selling the products in some parts. So we are looking for money to spend on these matters.
Yeah, okay. And Series A forecast, let's say, or the range that you have in mind for Series A?
We expected that we reach the parameters of our company in 2 years to interest the VC funds for round A, and we expect we will need $7 million US for global approach and for commercialization our products on global scale, and it will be in 2 years.
Yeah. So David, we covered short-term, mid-term. What about the ultimate goal? Like, what's in it for you? What's your exit, ideal exit scenario? Not for the company in general, like for you specifically. Do you have any idea of that?
So, you know, yeah, it's the second tricky question here in this interview. We want to go global, and you know, we need to shake the telecom market, and it's a lot of work for now. I don't think about the exit, how I can give up with Microamp Solution now, because there is a lot of to do. So if Microamp Solutions will be the leader on telecom market, and if we'll be very a famous company on the telecom market, I will think, how can I do my exit with the company? But now I'm focused to achieve the goals we want to achieve.
Fair enough. Fair enough. David, thanks a lot. Without like false modesty, let's just admit that you are one of the front runners among all the startups globally, basically, who are trying to create and to build the foundations of the future 5G driven world. And I wish you all the best. Thanks a lot for the chat.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you. Bye.
So thanks for watching. Microamp Solutions is another startup from Central and Eastern Europe that has joined our pre-A club. That's it for now, but there's more to come. Bye-bye.